is easy to read. Okay, it's Article 1, Section 8, primarily are the duties of Congress. It's easy, defense, immigration, whatever. If you look in there, you can see there's no authority whatsoever over the daily lives of the people. So I'll talk to these governors and I'll say, enforce the Constitution. If anything comes down the road from the federal government unconstitutional, like Obamacare, educational directives, EPA requirements, whatever, you should say you're obligated to say, no, we're not going to implement them. And if you do implement them, then you're imposing tyranny upon the people just as much as the federal government. But the big thing with that is funding of the federal government. In order to be able to say no to the federal government, we have to restructure how the federal government is funded. And that's why it's so critical to cut out the middleman. The states have to collect whatever is necessary to perform the social functions within their jurisdiction. We should actually forward to the federal government what the federal government needs to perform its defined and definite duties. And that's what we do. That way, we're not under any financial stranglehold by the federal government.
How would you establish that amount?
Well, first of all, what I would do, I would recommend an audit of the federal government. Not an audit of the Fed, but an audit of the federal government. Every single corporation in America, whether it's Walmart, General Motors, or whatever, is audited, so the IRS can see what income they took in. I'd love to go through and have an audit of the federal government so we could break down all of its spending into constitutional functions. How much we spend on defense, how much we spend on immigration, weights and measures, patent office, whatever. And then that would be, if you look at the budget, it's roughly $800 billion. It was in 2012. The rest of it falls into non-constitutional categories: health and human services, housing, energy, education. And whatever falls outside of constitutional authority, I myself as a state would pay for it. I'd go through and just see. Have you heard of Hillsdale College?
Yes.
Has anyone here heard of Hillsdale? Hillsdale did a great thing. The Department of Education came to Hillsdale and they said, look, you have to follow our directives because we're the federal government and you have to follow our directives. And Hillsdale said, no, we're not going to follow what you say. Hillsdale said, we're not collecting money from the federal government, so we're not going to do what you tell us to do. Well, the federal government came through and kind of twisted the situation, and they said, you do get money indirectly through the GI Bill or federally guaranteed student loans. So the long and the short of it is Hillsdale had to go through and say, we're not going to collect any money directly or indirectly from the federal government. So they don't take any GI Bill money, or they don't take any federally guaranteed student loans. And by not taking any money whatsoever from the federal government, they're free of all the restrictions that the federal government tries to impose on them. That's what we have to do as a state. We have to go through, we have to refuse to accept funding from the federal government for anything whatsoever, for education, for welfare, for Obamacare, for roads, for anything whatsoever. And we have to go through and collect it ourselves, and we can spend it any which way we want. And that's what I'm really trying to do.
To do it like you're saying, you have to have that audit done first, so because the state's still going to have to send money to the feds.
They would. See, the way the original Constitution was written is it said that the federal government would collect its primary money from duties, imposts, and excises. And I know that's not nearly enough to fund the federal government, but that's how it got its regular money. And then the difference was taxed to the states based on percentage of population. That's how it was. So there was never a direct tax, and there was never a deficit at the federal level, because whatever the federal government needed, it just taxed the states based on percentage of population. And that's how it worked. And that worked fine when we were paying for defense, immigration, and whatever. And historically, the federal government always spent just 2 to 3% of gross domestic product in peacetime. It was minuscule. And it went that way from 1787 to 1930. And that's when the United States went from a third world nation to a world-class superpower in every aspect with minimal federal interference. Minimal. Now from 1930 forward, that's ballooned from 2 to 3% of gross domestic product up to 26 or 27 right about now. And that's why we're having these huge deficits, because we can't collect more than 20% of gross domestic product in taxes. That's the maximum. So we have to turn it around. And that's why I'd love to go through and audit the federal government. See, what I would do is I have something called the nullification resolutions. I don't know if anyone's seen them. But we go through the nullification resolutions, and it says basically what it says is that the actions of the federal government are extremely destructive to the well-being of the state. I'd like each one of these states to pass these resolutions. And it says basically that the actions of the federal government are extremely detrimental to the state. And what the state is going to do is it's going to insist upon enforcing the constitutional limitations against the federal government. we don't need any new authority. It's just, we as a state can say we're not going to allow the federal government to oversee its authority. Within the Constitution, it says very clearly the federal government can only tax to pay for its enumerated functions. It says that clearly in the Constitution. And then it says in the next section, it says the federal government can only draw money from the federal government to pay for constitutional duties. So it can't tax to spend for education. It can't tax to spend for health and human services. It does it anyways because no one holds it accountable. It can't do it. It can't spend money from the federal treasury for education or for health and human services. It does it anyways. So that's why I'd like the states to go through and take a stand, one state at a time, and say, look, we'll be more than happy to go through and fund any enumerated duty. So whatever it is, based on an audit, if it's $800 billion, we'll take whatever our percent is and pay it, no problem whatsoever. But for any function that's outside of constitutional authority, we're not going to accept any money from the federal government to pay for those services, and we're not going to, we're going to collect it ourselves and provide them ourselves without any restraint. And that's what the audit would be for. Go ahead, what was your question? I can see your frown.
Well, I guess to get it going, I mean, if you don't have the audit first to do some limitation on how much taxation is, then, it seems like the feds are going to crush the states if you're doing it one at a time, or the states are going to be broke when they cut out all the funding they're taking now.
Now, see, what I'd like to do is, at the state level, what I would like to do is, say, Michigan as an example. I would like the legislature to pass a resolution saying all federal taxation that's collected in the state of Michigan, rather than having it sent to the IRS, the Treasury Department, have it collected and deposited into the state of Michigan's treasury. All the federal collections. And then what we would do is, based on the audit, we'd have to do the audit, or we'd have to get some accounting of how much we spent for defense. But if you look at the budget for 2012, it says, roughly $800 billion is required for constitutional functions. So whatever our percent of that share is, we would take from the federal collections and forward it to the federal government to pay our share. But then we wouldn't take any money from the federal government through grants for any other program. We would just keep the difference, use it for our own benefit, basically. Whatever was collected, from the state of Michigan would reside in the state of Michigan, and that's what we would use to pay for our services. If we did that, we could easily go through and do away with the state income tax. We could easily do away with the state sales tax and with every other tax, and just use the difference that we collected for the federal government, for the services within our state. But the nice thing is, if we did that, other states would follow. I'm sure states like Texas, Oklahoma, Nevada, and all those other states would follow in a heartbeat. So it wouldn't be one state in all likelihood. It would be, 12 states or whatever, 15 states. And then what would happen is the states that are that receive more benefit from the federal government than they pay, like California and things like that, would be the only states left over that would be funding the federal government, getting money from the federal government. But they'd have to, change because whatever. The other thing is, as soon as the states started to follow this process where they said no to the federal government, then the elected representatives from those states, whether it's senators or congressmen or whatever, would be constitutionally oriented, and they would naturally put the brakes on the federal government's abuse also. But the big thing is we just have to stop the process, and how we do it, isn't that it's important, but we have to stop the process of allowing the federal government to collect as much money as it possibly can from the states, use 70% of it to pay for its administrative functions, give the 37% back to the states with the conditions attached to it. We have to break that cycle. I hate to throw numbers around, I'm sorry for that. Any other questions? The other thing is, the only reason I'm running is that I truly understand the greatness of the Constitution. It's, in my opinion, I was talking to Hugh, I think it's almost like a divinely inspired document. Because the whole purpose of it is that the federal government's sole purpose is to provide a safe and secure nation in which a free people can live. And the people themselves take care of every aspect of their lives. They take care of the educational aspect, they take care of the charity, they take care of the environment. The federal government has no authority whatsoever. And when that was allowed to be implemented as it was written within the Constitution, we were a prosperous nation. I read today on Drudge that very, very soon the United States isn't going to be the wealthiest nation in the world anymore. And that's solely because of the policies of the federal government are stifling the economy. I like to think of the economy as like a balloon almost. And if you're blowing up a balloon, if there's a real little hole in it, for air to get out, that should represent the taxation of the federal government, because the federal government is a necessary evil, because it does have to take some money from the economy to provide for our defense and immigration and national functions. So if you have a balloon that you're blowing up, and the blowing up is just economic activity, and you have a little hole coming out of it, you can still have a full balloon without any problem. But if you go through and you make that hole 25% of the surface of the balloon, which represents 25% of the gross domestic product that's coming out of our economy, there's no way possible that you can keep that balloon inflated, no matter how hard you do it. And that's the situation that we're in right now. The federal government's taking so much money out of the economy and just wasting it, that there's no way that we can maintain a full-blown economic development. And that's why we're going to lose our status as the world's most prosperous nation because of federal policy. Okay? The other little thing is I have bumper stickers here, so if you want to put bumper stickers on your car, you can put bumper stickers on your car. The other thing is no one knows who I am because I'm just a businessman from Roscommon. So I need true grassroots support, and I did file my signatures in the state of Michigan just a while ago. It's a buffer of 30%, so we needed 1,000 signatures. I got 1,300, but I got every single one of those myself. Every single person that I got a signature from, I shook their hand. This is actually talking to what Hugh was mentioning too, how people will know that I'm not going to betray my principles. Because I talked to 1,300 individual people, I introduced myself and at the I told them exactly what I thought the problems were, what I thought the solutions were, and discussed it with them. And then I shook their hand and gave them the signed petition. I consider that a promise on my part. And I'm not going to go through and betray that promise to 1,300 people and get into Washington and say, okay, I know I'm going to work with another government, I'm going to go through and become part of the problem. That just goes against my total nature. Sometimes when I talk to people too, they ask me questions. They say, how do I feel about abortion? And I would tell them flat out, I would say that I'm pro-life and that I consider abortion murder. Especially if you see these videos on the side of the screen or something like that, where you see the whole part. It's terrible. So they would just say, okay, they are pro-choice and they would sign a petition, that's fine, because I'm not going to lie to them. They also asked me how I feel on homosexual marriage. That's that I think marriages should be between one man and one woman under God, which shouldn't be between two men and two women. But I also put a caveat on that saying I don't want the federal government to have anything whatsoever to do with marriage because it's not a federal issue. It's a state issue, primarily just for the tax or family or whatever matters, but it shouldn't be federal whatsoever. And if people go through and say, well, I support homosexual marriage, I can't support your petition, I'd say fine. But I would never be turning my principles when I was trying to get a signature, which is fine. So I do need a lot of grassroots support. If anyone here just wants to help, go door to door to, just introduce my message to the local people in the neighborhood. You can talk to us afterwards and get your names and go forward from there.
Can you talk for a minute, you mentioned, marriage between a man and a woman under God. Can you talk for a minute about principles that are higher than the Constitution? When we're sitting in a church, and I'd like to make sure that, we share those
I am a
principles.
Christian, okay? The denomination I belong to is called Christian Science, but it's a Christian religion, and it's basically, I believe God is God, okay? He's omnipotent. I believe that we all are the sons and daughters of God. We are made in His reflection. I believe that Jesus taught the true relationship between man and God, and that it's our job to try and live the teachings of Jesus so we can live the best life that we possibly can. Understand a true relationship to God. I was talking to Jana, my wife is Jana. Does everyone know Jana? I was talking to Jana just a while ago, and she was saying, this congressional race is important, but it's not nearly important. The most important thing that we can do is to try and understand what the kingdom of heaven is and how we can attain, our relationship with God. But the other thing is I am a true Christian, but I don't try and broadcast my religion. That's all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would say that denominationally, I'm an independent Baptist, and so you and I would have probably some doctrinal differences, to say the least. But we have complete compatibility when it comes to the Constitution. And I certainly agree with you on your constitutional stance, and I support you in your run for office.
Well, see, my feeling is as far as religion, I support every religion because normally religion, no matter what denomination it is, tries to improve the nature of man. That's how religion should be. People go through and try and make themselves better. That's one reason why I can't really agree with the Muslim religion, because everything I learn about the Muslim religion is that you either join the Muslim religion or you're going to be dominated and killed. And that goes against every principle that we have as far as the nation is a Judeo-Christian principle as well as our constitutional values. So I don't consider Islam really even a religion. It's a theocracy, in my opinion, government, and it's just for domination of people.
Second Amendment.
I'm a proud NRA life member, obviously. I realize that, I don't know if that's obvious, but I am a proud NRA life member. The Second Amendment, the whole purpose of it is to allow free people to defend themselves from a tyrannical government. That's all it is. When we revolted from England, we were overthrowing our domestic government. Anytime that anyone ever tries to disarm a population, that should be warning signs. And if a population is disarmed, tyranny is going to follow very, very shortly. Someone asked me a question, should the caliber of weapons, should the caliber of bullets be limited, or should magazine capacity be limited? And I said definitely not. I said I'd like the population of the United States to be armed to the hilt. Law-abiding people don't commit crimes. They just don't. And if the government goes through and says we're going to disarm you based on limiting the caliber of bullets you have, or based on the capacity of the magazines, they're effectively disarming you because the military is not going to be disarmed. I'd like to have the citizenship of this country be armed to the teeth, so if we need to, we could defend ourselves against our own government. I think our own government is the greatest threat that we face as a nation today.
We all know finances are huge, but besides that, what else do you have in mind?
The biggest thing is to win this election, I believe I need 40,000 votes. Camp's run unopposed every single time he's run. He's always gotten about 67,000 votes. So I figure I need half of that, and I added a little bit, so 40,000 votes. What I'm really looking for 400 volunteers, which is a lot of volunteers. And we have a qualified voter list. I'm going to take that qualified voter list. We're going to figure out who's a likely Republican voter, because whoever wins the Republican primary is going to win the district, because it's a Republican district. So I'm going to take that qualified voter list, divide it into segments of 1 to 200 voters. I'd like to pass that out, and I'd like volunteer, and it'll be in neighborhoods. So I'd like volunteers like you, as an example, that go around your little neighborhood, talk to 100 to 200 people between now and the primary, and explain why you're sincerely impressed with my positions. Because if you go through and explain to your neighbors why you're sincerely impressed, then it's going to be much more meaningful than if we just have a script and say, P. Konetchy supports this, and this. And have a little dialogue, just like I did when I got the signatures. Talk to people, answer their questions, and just have a dialogue with them. That's the biggest thing. If I can have grassroots support, then that's great. The other thing is we're really trying to work with the youth. We have some different venues that we're putting on, dealing with the youth, that we're trying to get that vote, to come up.
Your competitors, I know John Molinar, and is there anybody else in spot?
There's John Molinar, there's a couple other, there's another gentleman from Saginaw. He's supposed to be a businessman. I haven't read too much about his positions, but I'll start looking at it. What I figure we would do is after the 22nd, we'll see who files, and then we'll go forward from there. But just as an example for John Molinar, in his announcement that he put forward, he said just a few things. He said, first, he wants to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I figured, why do we want to replace Obamacare? Government intervention in the healthcare system is what is destroying it. So we just need to repeal it. The free market always fills the voids. That's the first thing. He said, He doesn't want, he says he wants to go through and tweak camp's tax overhaul program, and make it better. Well, the thing is, the only plank, and I talked to Dave about this specifically, the only plank in camp's tax overhaul program was that it had to be revenue neutral. That was the only plank. And he was going to tweak, how we collect the money, but it had to be revenue neutral. And that means that Molinar wants to go through and continue to collect as much as is possible from the population, just in a different way. The third thing he said was he wanted to go through and he didn't want to spend any more money than we could collect, which means he wants to spend as much money as we possibly could. The true answer is we don't want to spend any more money than we're authorized to spend. Okay, because if we're authorized to spend 2 to 3% of gross domestic product, that's significant. The rest can be kept for the people that earn it. If we're spending as much as we can possibly collect, that means we're going to take as much as we can from the people, small businesses, or whatever, and just spend it. And have a benevolent government that we're not indebting our kids anymore. So, that's the difference in perspectives. And Molinar is going to be in my opinion, just a pure establishment politician.
Being a freshman, how do you go about convincing the ones that have been there forever?
Well, I don't think you can really convince the ones that have been there forever. I know I talked to Ted Cruz's office, I talked to Mike Lee's office. I think they are great guys, they're new people. So I could easily work with those people without any problem whatsoever, but I couldn't work with McCain and Lindsey Graham because they're the old guys and we have to replace them. The other thing is for the freshman house members, like the Amashes and the Bentivolios and the Clintocks and Browns, you can easily work with them to supplement the numbers. But the other guys who are there that are old, Barney Frank obviously, can't do anything about him, just have to go over. And that's where it's going to be tough because I know that the Republican Party is not going to support my candidacy because they can't control me. In my opinion, the Republican leadership is just as despicable as the Democratic leadership because they all want power over the people. They just want to be in charge. And we've seen this with when the Republicans were in power in 1994, as when Clinton was in power. They spent the money just like as some people said drunken sailors. I guess that was Reagan a little bit earlier. But they did. When 1994, the Republicans just abused their power just as much as the Democrats did. So I want to work with the true conservative freshmen who are there to limit government any way possible. Because if we don't limit government, I know we're not going to survive. I don't want to take up all the time. I know I've taken way too much.
Well, I'd just like to say that I'm glad you guys are all here, and I hope the reason you're here is we have to decide if we want to have a constitution. We have to decide if we want to have just part of a constitution. Can you have part of it? It seems like we have all these elected people, they take an oath to a constitution, and they talk constitutional jargon, but when it comes right down to it, they kind of disregard it like it's old-fashioned. But why do we have a Supreme Court that rules on constitutionality? And then they break that constitutional oath. So this is no longer to me a battle of Republicans and Democrats. I think we're beyond that now. Not everybody is, but we need to start talking to people and let them understand that the battle now is really about freedom. It's about liberty versus tyranny.
It is, it's freedom. If we don't get our liberty back, if we don't follow the Constitution, we are not going to survive. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And you talked about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, has everyone here read the Kentucky Resolutions of 1798? If you haven't, you should read it. The Kentucky Resolution of 1798. That's when Jefferson was in power. He was vice president. And this federal government always stepped in.
That was put into the zoning act. I have to think that the commissioners and the people who are on the zoning commission, when you do something in your own backyard, it now becomes a recreational finance. Because that's basically what they're saying, is that if you want to do something in your backyard, you have to get a permit and you have to have that finance. So what they're saying is they don't care about property rights. They just have absolutely no property rights marrow in their bones at all in this county, or most counties don't. And property rights are really the death of our property rights, and they need to be changed. These guys that are in there, they don't seem to take their oath of office to any extreme. As a matter of fact, I don't think any of them know what their oath of office is or what the Constitution is. A little update on our case over in Midland, and I'll be done in just a second here. We have filed, in Midland, we filed the appeal 35 days ago. After 65 days of waiting to get the transcript before we could actually get the appeal into the appeals court on Greg's case. So we filed the appeal, we filed our brief. The state had until April the 15th to respond with their brief. They filed their brief on the 15th. We got it today. I read it. Boy, they're good liars. The state's AGs are really good liars. I don't know how they're going to get around it, but we'll file an objection and a response to their brief that they sent in. Then what happens in this particular situation is, now when the briefs are all in, and after 14, we've got 14 days to respond to that brief. All the documents go to a bunch of the attorneys within the appeals court. And some attorneys will read our brief, some attorneys will read another brief, some attorneys will look at the trial transcripts, and then they'll do an overview write-up. And not the judge, not one of the three judges yet have seen anything of the case. So all their attorneys will do write-ups, they get these overviews, and finally it goes to as the funnel gets a little narrower, another couple attorneys get to look at it, they'll write an overview, and then they'll take those overviews and they'll hand them to the judges about 5 minutes before we go to court. We don't know when we're going to court on that yet because they haven't docketed, they don't know how much paperwork they're going to have on it. So we're looking at probably 6 to 10 months yet before we get into the appeals court and have oral arguments. But when we do, all I can do is say that numbers make a difference. We were at the appeals court about a month and a half ago, and I couldn't believe it. There were two cases that the Court of Appeals was hearing. You got 3 judges. There were 6 lawyers in that Court of Appeals room, and there were 3 of us non-guys, just us little pro se guys, and they're arguing a lot of money. 2 attorneys are arguing a lot of money, and there was not one of the plaintiffs or the defendants in that courtroom to see what their attorneys were spending their money for. I said, Mike, it was just crazy. And we have one other case that'll be hitting probably in another week, 2 weeks. We're filing a superintending control case with the new Court of Claims where you don't have a right to a jury. But this is to make the State Tax Commission follow their own rules. So we'll keep you up to date on that. We've got about 9 plaintiffs at this point in time, and there probably will be more by the time we're done. And I'll take any questions if anybody's got any. If not, I'll be quiet.
I was just curious, as far as the mud bogs, are there other plaintiffs that are being sued by, is it the DNR that's suing them, or who's suing them?
It's not the DNR, it's the county itself.
It's County Gladwin?
Yeah, the county of Gladwin, my township pays for county zoning, and, the county implements it. We've been doing this long before the Enabling Act, so it should be legal non-conforming use. They haven't followed that order. Basically, all the county's saying is pay $350 for an application for a permit. Then see if the planning commission will approve it, which they've denied us once. Which these appointed boards, we've found out over the last year, they're very inconsiderate, disrespectful. You know, it's their way, no way. Our elected follow these appointed boards very closely. Obviously, we see now they're changing the rules as they go. Other than that, the county attorney is saying his settlement terms are basically we apply for a permit, which is going to cost a small fortune. You know, then you get the permit, then you got to follow their guidelines. You know, and rules such as no camping on premises. I got 40 acres and I can't throw a tent up. You know, I got a few of my buddies over, you know, we have a couple of beers, they want to camp out. You know, I mean, some of the regulations that they want to throw is just...
It's an overreach of their statutory authority. It's ridiculous.
Keeps going. I mean, they've been delaying, we've been asking for, well, the 27th, it'll be a year that this has been going on. And we've been asking for that year to sit down and show us what rules we're breaking, what ordinance we're breaking. We can't find it nowhere. Well, lo and behold, as of February, you can find it there, right along with a whole lot of other regulations. You know, such as you can't have dirt bike tracks, ATV tracks. So what are they going to consider track? There's no specifications to it. So if I have a buddy over with four-wheeler, I got mine, we want to go right around the yard, we make a lap, but that's track now? I mean, they want to make it commercial. It's a commercial industry just doing that in your own backyard. And it comes with a whole list of rules and regulations that's just not tolerable by no means.
Well, Kelly, I might be right along with you because we just bought 20 acres of prime.
Yes, ma'am, and I can't wait to get up there.
We're having one till May, so.
And just to let
it's gonna mess
everybody
with
know,
us.
and on a little secret, Saturday we will be having an anniversary party for Tom and Linda.
45 years.
There will be some trucks. It might get a little muddy. It's not a mud bug, it's an anniversary party. So, you know, if you all feel free to come out and be, you know, hang out with everybody, you know, it's a good time. You know, it's a lot of great folks.
Can I drive my Focus to the block?
No, you can't.
You can try.
But you can ask Tom and some of these other guys, you come on out, I'll get you riding something that'll get your blood going.
These things, it's the principle of it, really. If you believe in the Constitution, your mind starts to go in that direction of limited constitutional government, where the parameters are of government, what is good government, what's the definition of good government, and you start thinking about the definitions of property as public domain, private domain, they should not be blended, but this is how these things creep into our lives and going. I understand that government's role is to prevent injustice and have to keep some peace, but there's no criminal activity. You know, if I live in Oakland County and I've got a fetish for dirt bikes, and I buy 40 acres up in, you know, in District 1, who's going to tell me I can't ride my dirt bikes? That's why I bought the driveway.
Oh, I can tell you who will.
Well,
I can tell you with an absolute fact that Justin Snyder and that commission in Gladwin County will tell you you can't do that. You've got to go get a permit. They want to extract money from your pocketbook.
we just don't agree with that. You know, I understand, you know, liberty, freedom, what liberty is, freedom plus morality. So we have to be good stewards of our neighbors, and we have to behave. And sometimes issues arise, and we should be able to deal with that ourselves. And if there's criminal activity, by all means, you file a police report, you call the sheriff, you go through the proper channel, but you don't use assault on the law, which is an elected commission who appoints a board who has complete authority over your property. That's not fair. We need to stop that. The relevance on the Greg Konetchy case, if anybody didn't know, that's another property rights issue, and that's the DEQ saying you can't develop property in northern Midland County because you want to put a driveway in, I think, put a culvert in. Is that correct?
Yeah, in that case, that's one where we've got the appeal in. That particular case is where the DEQ is saying that they have, the DNR has, the Ag Department has absolute authority on all property within the exterior boundaries of the state of Michigan barring none, on private property, not public domain, where those rules and regulations are required to be set. So that's an interesting situation. In reading one little reply from the Attorney General's office was that during our court case, we indicated that anybody that did something wrong on anybody's property with a warrant, the sheriff could come out and arrest somebody. So we acquiesced to the fact that, you know, if they have a legitimate warrant, that they could come out and arrest us if we were doing something wrong. We acquiesced to that. And I agree that if I damaged somebody that badly, I needed to be arrested and there was a lawful warrant, come get me, come and arrest me. But this twit from the AG's office is trying to put their spin on that and saying that if you agree that we can come out there with a warrant and arrest you, then the state has jurisdiction on your property to do anything. It's wrong, folks. They're wrong. And we'll show them where it is.
There's a reason you own property, to do what you want with it, not have to go to a landlord and say, can I do this? So,
And these agencies, like the DEQ, DNR, you know, they're starting to become sprawling bureaucracies. They're getting way too much power. And if you don't think that the DEQ of Michigan is getting pushed and directed by the EPA, you Google, because that's where it's coming from. And limiting land use is their agenda. That's just the way it is. And we got to fight back at that. You don't do it at the state level. I'm sorry, you guys are, I mean, you can. You guys are taking an extreme path as far as you're putting that effort forth. You know, not everybody can take it that far or know how to. Or for the lawyer that would take you to go fight the state of Michigan in their jurisdiction. But locally, we have to stop it and nip it in the bud, like on the issue with Kelly Miller. You know, we have to make this county commission, make this county understand, the zoning board understand where their authority is.
And see, just to add, you know, my feeling on it, these appointed boards are for lazy electing. And if you think about it, that's what it boils down to. We elect these people to do a job and they're passing the buck to somebody else. That giving them complete power and control that we gave them to begin with. We're just giving it away. Now, our commission's not even looked at this. I mean, when Josh was chair, we had a little of his ear, you know, and now Josh is gone and Whittington, you know, passing. That was my two key players with the commission now. Now they've dispersed. These guys have they went crazy. They're giving away money they don't have. They're asking for this Headley.
They're taking a loan with your
Yeah,
money.
they're taking a loan with our money.
That's an extra
It's repeated. I mean, our dam that was holding what little bit back that we had that we could use for something, it's gone. I mean, they think they've got this Headley down to where they've already hired back an officer. They gave the judges their secretaries. I mean, it just flows right down the line. I've been going to these meetings pretty much for a year now. I've missed a few, but, you know, in the last, since, well, January is when Josh was gone, and that since about February, it's just been steadily downhill. Anything anymore I say to them, they don't hear. They're not hearing me no more. Tuesday, they're going to have their first evening meeting, and I'm encouraging everybody to be there. As many people as we can. It's time that they realize they work for us, not the government. And this is going to be a big problem. I mean, in that ordinance that they amended in February, rifle ranges. Don't get caught shooting guns with your buddy. That's a commercial act. I'm serious. It's getting bad. It really is.
You know, we've talked about it for a couple of years now, that in order to make change within our government, we have to start at home. And we've got to start locally within our townships and within our counties. And, you know, I'd just like to say that I've had enough. I've had enough here. I filed today.
I had enough. My paperwork's been in for about 2 weeks now.
All right. All right.
Dad Faber's gonna help him out at the county level, if you guys would have me.
All right.
And see, this is where it all starts. We gotta get involved. We gotta say hi. This is me. Remember us. We're the people. You know, I mean, we can do huge things together. But as one person, just like I said, the commissioners aren't here to be no more. I have a feeling Tuesday they're gonna see more residents of Gladwin County than the commissioners have ever seen before. And I think it's gonna be a good thing.
It'll be good, it'll be,
Everybody.
you know, it'll be peaceful, it'll be proper, but we have to start engaging our governments again. We've been saying that for a long time. There was a bullet item that was,
Well, you know, I got something in the mail encouraging Heather. And I want to figure this out because who's sending it and who got our name and where the money come from.
well, that would be the concerned citizens of Gladwin County funded that. But yeah, where did they get their information? Why did they send one to me? They should know better. Through safety stand.
I didn't get one.
Did you?
No.
Mine was a mistake. But yeah, I didn't get one.
I didn't get one.
But I know they can't, you know, they can't fund it. They're not supposed, it's illegal for them to fund it, and it's illegal for them to say, oh, yeah. But they got the disclaimer. Maybe they're taking that out, they got the,
Right up there in the county courthouse. They stacked on it, but then
it's,
Well, they had that Headley override meeting where they were talking
Tuesday
about
is at, what time, guys, 6:37?
7 o'clock.
Yeah, anybody that can't show that has questions, write them down, get them to us, and we'll ask them.
if they put that in the zoning, that means if I have my mud bog coming up, then they can actually come up and try to shut us down.
Well, see, it was told to us early in this that they've already targeted like the one on Ritchie Road, Farmer's Place,
What about
Jones
Jones
Road.
Road, really?
They've got them in their sights. They know about them. They got names. They're ready to throw down on it, but they don't want more than one lawsuit at a time, and that was their exact words. They know they're there. They just we're buying time.
I think everybody should have a mud bog.
I know.
Yeah.
I have one.
Actually, good reports say that on Hills Road this year, Randy Bozer will be having one. So,
Yes, I was talking to John Wilson, that's where we bought our house from, and this, he said this one's gonna be.
And I'll tell you, it is a dirty way to celebrate your anniversary, but we're gonna do it.
you know, everybody's got a perception of it. It's very respectful, you know. People do drink beer, you're gonna get that everywhere, you know. It's just a bunch of big horsepower trucks and a lot of deep mud. My ground wasn't good to farm, so what do you do with it? You know, it don't affect nobody. We keep everybody confined in our land, you know, and we do park on one side of the road, you know, we keep it respectful. You know, it's a good time. A lot of people come out last year for the first time, just like Tom, Tab, you know, wasn't nothing like they heard. You know, we're no different than nobody else. We just have different hobbies. Some people like shooting guns. We spend a lot of money on trucks and see how far they'll go in the mud. You know,
And I've taken my family to them for years.
Yes.
Years, since I was that tall, I think, with my dogs.
And I remember my thought was about county commission, you know, if we were lucky enough, there's 5 commissioners, if we were lucky enough to have, you know, 3 that would, you know, be of like mind. You can imagine, you take people like Pete, you put them at that level, and you give them some help, and they can bring those discussions in and get those ideas where they belong. You might not be able to change everything at once. I would have no illusions that we could, you know, make drastic changes in the county. There are state mandates we're just going to have to deal with. But mandated services versus non-mandated services, those can be looked at closely. The same problems we're having with the federal government and the state government, that collusion and that money goes up and back. We're doing the same thing with counties to the state. It's the same issue. It's a mirror. It's a problem. And the same battle that he'll be fighting up there, we would fight here. This EVIT process, what can we do to affect that? What can we do to regain county sovereignty? Our counties are becoming just a governmental arm of the state. In a way they are. But if we were not a sovereign county, why would we have elections?
Right.
There's a purpose for that. There's a reason for that. We need to get people there to understand that we are a sovereign county and we have our own interests and we should be able to make some of our own decisions on how we're going to govern in our counties. And I hope that would spread across Michigan, and that would be freedom.
Spread Obama's word that he said today, that the sovereign country of Ukraine is sovereign. Right? They're a sovereign country. Now, the government does not like sovereign citizens because we're terrorists. But each and every one of us are sovereign. God made us, each of us are sovereign in our own way, and we have to act that way.
Okay. Sovereign is a part of the Europe now. European Union. How is it a part of the European Union? Actually, a socialist pact is sovereign.
We've got, in addition to this little agenda, Amber's got just briefly share. It goes along with property rights, it goes along with public domain, private domain. The drain commissioner has authority over public domain property. There's an easement on our drains. He has authority over them. He's exercised his authority over them. And
Yes, but he's gone overboard. Way overboard. We have culverts washing out in our counties where we can't get through to the roads. People can't access their fields because they had to buy $10,000 worth of culverts. Lane Road culvert alone to replace cost $50,000 for Beaverton Township. That was passed on to the people in the special drainage district on Burleson Green. Now, Beaverton Clare Road, that culvert's washed out because of the work Bob Evans did. It's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. And it's going to cost the county $100,000 to replace that culvert. So he is costing us money. I am in the process right now of receiving the information from Lansing to recall him. But I need people to help me collect signatures. I need somebody to sit on the side of the road somewhere, on a sidewalk in Beaverton, go door to door, whatever you can do to help get him out of this office. He took Burleson Green, which was right through my front yard. If you'll go over on Lane Road, you can't miss it. It looks like a river. That, when I moved into that house, it was 2 feet deep. And according to the survey, it's supposed to be 4 foot deep. Understandable. Water drain off needs somewhere to go. Instead, it's 12 foot deep. Some places upwards of 15 foot deep. I had a hole going to, they call them eroded gullies. When the rainwater was running underneath the ground, it started washing out towards the ditch. I had a hole I could fit my F-350 truck into and not see it because of the work he did. He is being very reckless. He is not considering any of the drain code laws that I have read in doing the work he's doing. He has an engineering degree, but that engineering degree is for mechanical. He does not know what he's doing, and he's not willing to admit that he doesn't know what he's doing. And he's not willing to fix the mistakes. DEQ has sent him at least 4 letters. I've read them myself. They're up with Road Commission and Drain Commission's offices, saying the violations that he has done on the drains, not covered for soil erosion, the things along those lines, disregard for watershed. He made a deal with DEQ to fix these things before he dug any more drains, and he has not. He has not fixed one thing he has done wrong on any of these drains. So I've contacted him to the point now where he will not return my phone calls. He will not talk to me. He's not in his office ever. I got to talk to his secretary this morning. She said he might be. So there's no way to even try to rectify the situation. And I tried at first. I really did. This is 2 years ago this happened to my property, and I'm just now doing a recall. I've pretty much exhausted everything. I've talked on the board, I wrote letters, I talked to Joel Johnson, I called the governor, I called the senator, you name it, I've done it. So now here I am, starting the recall. But like I said, I need help collecting signatures. If you can give 1 day of your time, or know somebody that can give 1 day of their time to sit on the side of the road with me and collect them, I would be more than happy to take them. On the back of my van, there's going to be a nice big sign saying, if you want to recall Bob, honk your horn and I'll pull over so you can sign my name. County with that sign on the back of my van. And I'm going to carpool possibly.
How many signatures do you need, April?
Approximately 2,500. I got the letter into the clerk's office for that information, but so far they have not been very helpful. They sent me on a very long goose chase this morning from Secretary of State to the courthouse to Secretary of State to the courthouse, just to get the paperwork I needed to file. So, and I have to get it from Lansing, so I'm waiting on that, and I'm waiting on the FOIA information to come back in so that I can, because all my information's gone. Now the House burnt, so I have to get all that again, because now in order to file, I have to show proof. If I say he violated, I have to send the violation letters. If I say he dug the ditch too deep, I gotta show him measurements and pictures. If I say he washed out the culvert, I gotta show him pictures of the culvert being washed out and proof that they replaced it. So I have to gather all that information now, which I am in process of, but it's gonna take a little bit more time than I expected. Hopefully in the next 3 weeks I'll have it in.
Typically don't advocate for recalls, but it is something, you know, it's a system that we have on our side if we don't have any other options. The problem we have with the drain commissioners is they're on an equal plane with our commission. They're, you know, it's a body, it's a governing body, and there's no authority over them. So if he wants to keep digging, he'll keep digging. He's already assessing people more than once on multiple drains. And if he wants to keep digging next year, he's just going to dig because that's what he was hired to do.
He is going to keep digging. He's under a cease and desist order by our prosecuting attorney, and he does not believe that is legal. And he has stated that he is going to continue to dig more drains without fixing what he's already done.
The last commissioners meeting, Bob was understanding he was getting ready to break ground.
So he's going to continue to destroy people's property.
If anybody's drove around Glavine County, looked at some of these ditches, I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't clean up your ditches once in a while, but what a disaster we've left behind, debris and water. You're leaving it up to the farm owner or a larger parcel of property owner to go deal with burns of dirt and just a mess. You know, it's not put back together nice. That's your problem. There's your trees laying down next to your ditch. It's ridiculous.
Because he has authority in the easement of so many feet to pile up all his debris. He doesn't have to move it, he can just pile
But it's supposed to be neat.
it. Right.
He's supposed to put the logs in one spot.
Who gets to decide what's needed?
All he did was rip all my trees out, but he ruined the first 6 feet, so I can't even use them to heat my house with, which I hate with wood. So the first 6 foot of the tree is just totally shredded, you can't even use it. And then they're just laying exactly where he pushed them over. There is, and half of them are buried in the hill. So I have to dig up the hill, which I'm not supposed to touch, because that's his territory, to pull them out. So, yeah.
Now, is there going to be any action taken towards the people that Bob was paying for the drain?
I have heard rumor, and I don't know how true it is yet. I was asked to write up a statement on who I saw digging the drain. And when I do that, if there's enough people that's seen Carl Albee in a machine working on my drain, they will prosecute Bob and Carl for doing work on the drain with an unlicensed contractor. So, and I've talked to Aaron Miller, and he has said that if Bob touches another drain without being bonded to cover the work, he will prosecute. So, but that's not going to help what's already been done in the past. Nothing is going to be. Because once you take dirt out of the hole, you can't just put it back in. It's going to wash right away. There is no way to fix my property. I'm going to have a 12-foot trench through my front yard that's probably 15 feet wide. And who's going to buy that? Personally, you know. I lived there. I don't now. My house burned. Kind of thankful for that once in a while. I don't have to look at a drainage ditch. But at the same point, if I didn't want to live there and that hadn't happened, I'm stuck with it. Nobody's going to buy it. damage done to the property, not when it's in your front yard. It's just not gonna happen. I wouldn't buy the place. There's so many places for sale right now, there's repossessions. To me, it's unsellable. Not for a very drastic cut. And they're still raising their property taxes, so they say it's valued at more.
You gotta improve drainage.
My driveway.
Dan McGilvery
Yes,
has a question.
just a comment. The drain commissioner in Midland County takes pride on being the most hated person in Midland.
And by the way, everybody, Dan is a commissioner in Midland County. It's up here tonight.
Okay, so you need a post on that.
Yes. As soon as I get my FOID information, which will cover all my proof, and then I get that from the information from Lansing, I'll be able to file it. But I can do it by mail, so I'm going to send that to Lansing for them to file that way, and then I have to wait. As soon as they accept it, I will be going down to the factual hearing in Lansing. I believe that is held in Lansing. I will be going to that.
Let us know.
So, and then I'm going to try to get Justin Snyder to testify there too.
All right, where are we at? I think most people understand we've got some special elections coming up, schools, both schools in the county, and I don't know what I want to say about that. Either you agree or you don't. The problem I have, I'll just comment on it, is that when we do these special elections and these requests for funding, I understand that local governments are hurting, property values are down, census is down, but it's never a solution. Just asking for more money is not going to fix the problem. It's not going to fix the count in school or the count of the population of Gladstone County, the taxpayers, the property values. So just adding more money is not going to solve the problem tomorrow. It will certainly kick that can. We've been doing that for a very long time, and there needs to be some better ideas on that. It's going to be limiting government. Ask yourself how much government you need. What's the proper level of government? Do we need to turn to them for every win? They're trying to do too much with money they don't have. That's my opinion. That's why I'm going to know. But you guys have to do what you think is in the best interest.
If it worked, Detroit would be bankrupt.
It's just not a solution. It's a short-term fix. It's irresponsible. Ballot. And on that, we know, vote for Pete. Vote for us. We got people on the ballot.
We have an absolute wonderful chance to get a conservative person in Congress. I think Pete is absolutely winnable in this election against John Lemar. But it's only going to work if we get the word out. Pete can only do so much. He's one person here. I'm looking at 20 more in here. Even if we can only get 50% of it, there's 10 more in here. And if 10 of you would have him in his house, or have him in your house, so he can talk to 5 or 6 of your friends, they will find that they like what Pete stands for. But you gotta start having them log cabin meetings, okay? We gotta start setting them up. He's gotta be able to schedule them, because his schedule's gonna get back here in a while. I hope it gets back. But in the meantime, you need to have him at your house. He needs to come in and he needs to meet your friends. So that he can't sell anybody selling, because I already bought it. So I need him to talk to my friends so that they know. We have an opportunity, guys, to grab hold of this Republican Party and start bringing it back to limited government. Okay? We're not for going to capitalism as much as we're not for welfare programs. Okay? It's all bad stuff. It all comes with bad strings attached. Pete's going to help bring that in. We want to help people that need help. I don't want your money to come to my business to make my store look better. If I'm not making enough money to make my store look better, then maybe I should raise my rates or go out of business. That irritates the snot out of me that we have got local businesses paying grant writers so that they can fix up their buildings and get their $15,000 that's available from a grant from your government. That's ridiculous. It's a business. They're for profit. If you're for profit, and I told one of my friends who was a businessman and took advantage of that, that's ridiculous. If there's anybody in this county that doesn't need money, it's freaking you. All right? And if you have friends that are doing that and they're businessmen, you need to tell them the same thing. You need to start calling them out on the carpet. Sorry. Don't believe it.
I wasn't friends. and I still call them, told them I wouldn't shop their businesses anymore. Every single one that I knew about.
If we're for capitalism, we're for pure capitalism. If I want to put a new roof on my building, I don't want to go to the government and ask them for money to put a roof on my building. I want to do it out of my pockets. And you guys should want that too. And Pete's that guy, okay? Tab's that guy. Tom's that guy. And Kelly's that guy. Let's get the government out of everybody's pockets. I'm tired of giving them my money so they can decide who gets the help. We should be able to keep our money so we decide who gets the help. I would love to do more in my county with charity. If I wasn't paying so much in property taxes, I'd probably be able to do that. And I'm lucky enough to be able to pay property tax increase in both counties, or both cities, Beaverton and Gladwin. I'm excited about that. Not. So guys, we've got opportunities, and it's great that we sit here and talk about it, but unless Pete gets in your house, and he gets in my house, and he gets in your house, and your house, and your house, and your house down there, he's talking to the wind. We're all sold. I hope we're all sold. We need to help sell our friends.
I believe the cottage meetings understand how it works now. We went to Chris Ann Hall a couple weeks ago, Wednesday and Saturday. And you can watch Chris Ann Hall videos and get inspired, but until you're right there in front of her in person, then you understand it. It's night and day. So if Pete was able to give his message of limited government and the value of the Constitution and what we've lost and what we could achieve and get back, those people understand it. We're sitting in front of Pete and then go face to face. When a huge difference, and that's how it was. Mr. Cruz won down in Texas that way, correct?
I don't know.
Part of it.
Yeah, he definitely is. Right.
Let me explain how Ted Cruz won his election, guys, and we don't have that luxury. In Texas, you have to win by a 50+1 majority in a primary, okay? In Michigan, you do not have to win by a 50+1 primary. If Pete gets 36 and John gets 38, John wins, all right? So what happened down in Texas is that Teddy was able, they had a large field in the primaries, and Teddy was enough, and the guys below him drew enough votes away from Dewhurst, I think is his name. They drew enough votes away from Dewhurst, he couldn't get 50+1, so it ended up being a runoff then between Ted and Dewhurst, okay? Dewhurst had 42%, and I think Ted only had about, I want to say 29 or 31% of the vote. Okay, so it wasn't even really close between the two, but what happened is all the people that were on the limited government side went to Teddy Cruz instead of Dewhurst, and Teddy Cruz won almost in a cruise. I hate to use a pun, but he almost won in a cruise in the runoff. We don't have that luxury, guys. We have to absolutely crush Mulbar. And what this Republican Party has done and will do in the past, if they think that there's a solid challenger, is they'll pollute the field and call them all conservatives so they can split our vote out. I'm saying we get behind Pete. He's been doing this long enough. We know what his message is. If they put 3 more guys in that sound like Pete, we ignore them because they will do it. And they will split our vote because we want to be independent. We say, okay, Pete's put the legwork in. He's sold the goods. Let's push him across the finish line.
Next item was precinct delegates. If anybody here that has not heard us, just encourage people to learn what the precinct delegate position and to run. Anybody not heard of what the precinct delegate is? Everybody knows. Your filing deadline is May 6th, 4 p.m. And go ahead.
In Midland, they're telling us it's the 22nd.
Really?
Yes.
What to verify that?
Please.
I thought this date.
That's coming up fast.
I could have the date wrong.
They changed it this year.
Okay. But it's coming up next month, so there's not a lot of time. And again, the importance of that is, if the Republican Party was the constitutional party that they boast they are, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. We'd be talking about this at the Riverwalk on the first Tuesday of every month. Thursday, yeah. So, I mean, let's face it. If the Republican Party stood on constitutional values, conservative values, and all the values that the planks that they say they stand for, the Tea Party would not exist. There would be no need for the Tea Party. So think about that. That's why we need the precinct delegates. If they're left to their own avails, they will continue doing what they've been doing, which is party politics, which is club politics.
They don't even care what you stand for. What they got from the road commission say?
one guy, no names, a potential candidate for road commission comes in, he says, well, the incumbent's running on a Democratic ticket. I don't want to cause undue financial burden, so I'm considering maybe running on a Republican ticket.
Sounds like a pure breed Republican, doesn't it? And our chair was excited. Like, you got to be kidding me. This guy's a Democrat that just wants to not have to run against a Democrat primary.
That's the stuff we have to change. What good is it? People on the ground, they expect to hit that voting booth and see an R or a D and have something remotely resembling that party public policy vehicle, that party political policy vehicle, I call it. If not, we're misleading. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the public and for the Republican Party of Gladwin County that those candidates are Republicans. Or some part of them stand for the values of the party plank. They better know what that is. If not, we're doing an injustice. So, if we're precinct delegates, we have a say in that. And we have a say at the state level. And we can turn the state from the bottom up. That can limit a government, constitutional government. And it's a great movement statewide. There's a lot of traction. You're right.
This little form right here, everybody's getting?
Yes.
Okay. This is the Republican Party spending $6 million to try to recruit delegates that will get the party back in their hands. Because they know they're dangerously close to guys like Tab and Tim and Dale and me and Pete of being in this party. Because we got tired of this about 6 years ago and got involved and started learning about being a delegate, started learning about how we can change things. They're dangerously close to losing control, so they're fighting back by investing $6 million in campaign funds, $6 million. They can't go to Pete, can't even go to John Molinar because they know how important this delegate position is. We know how important it is. We don't have $6 million, but you know what we do have? We have a lot of passion. And I want to give this county back to people that really care about the county and not about the Republican Party. I could care less about the Republican Party. I care about you guys. And that's the way it should be.
And then they pick on a guy that is just our guy.
I know.
It's astounding.
This guy, the salt of the earth, they adopted his platform. The National Republican Party said, yes, that's the platform we want to adopt. He proposed it, they adopted it, and now they're saying he stands against the GOP? Seriously? That's his platform. He wrote it. And now he's a bad guy. This is the DeVos money. This is corporate money saying this guy can't be bought, can't be sold, so we need to get rid of him. We can't control him, he needs to go. Pete can't be controlled, so he needs to go. Justin Amash can't be controlled, so he needs to go. They can redistrict him so they can try to beat him. They put him in a strong Democrat district to try to beat him. That's how much they don't care. They just want him gone because he can't be bought. So if you can't be bought and sold, you're our guy or gal.
The 22nd is next Tuesday. That's the deadline.
No, that's April.
April.
It's
May.
I was told April.
That's for the filing of the petitions for elected positions. Precinct delegates.
Good, thank you. That's why I got mine this week. Dan, you are doing that. Good.
That's paid for by the DeVos.
And we do need some more precinct delegates. I mean, we've got a fair amount.
We got a fair
I
number.
really appreciate it. They're working, yes, you're right, they're working exactly. They're recruiting, they've got the money.
We've got over 30 empty slots in this county. And I know in Midland they've got oodles and oodles and oodles of spots. And I don't know if oodles is a real number, but it works for me.
All right, what's next? Precinct delegates are important. Then we've got
Classes. County convention.
August 14th, our county convention. When you're a precinct delegate, you can vote at that county convention. You decide who you're going to send to represent Gladwin County to the state level convention. That's pretty important. If the people didn't, like us, regular folks on the ground, didn't become precinct delegates, get in there and vote, you're going to get the same people over and over going to the state level, and guess what they're going to vote? They're going to vote whatever Snyder tells them to vote.
This guy wouldn't be there if we weren't here.
He got 70% of the vote, and it wasn't from the traditional Republicans.
We caught him by surprise that time. The next time they were a little bit more prepared. We absolutely caught them with their pants down, for lack of a better term, when we got Dave in office. And I'm telling you, Saul, the guy that he was running against, unbelievable.
See, what I thought is that Aiden should run for the GOP chair,
That'd be great.
and he'd win.
I think we got this.
We're both blind.
Okay, so anyway, the precinct delegates, it may seem like it's inconsequential. What can you do as one person? Well, we're telling you, it makes a huge difference.
First thing you have to do is file your affidavit to become a delegate. There's a reason why the county convention meets after the election, because they're counting on every community to get them the numbers of the delegates. I'm telling you that right now, because we were supposed to have a convention in February this year. That one got nixed because they knew they didn't have the numbers. So they're hoping after this election cycle, the people that we lifted will drop off and then they'll outnumber us again. That's what they're hoping for. So we got to get you guys signed up on the ballot. We really do. We got to get you signed up on the ballot. And don't worry about the county convention because it's going to be overwhelming your first time. Just get there. And then I hate to say it, but trust us, we've been doing this a long time now, and we understand some of the procedures now. And really, what it comes down to is if you have the number, you own the convention. I'm sorry to say it that way, but if you have the number, you own the convention. It's going to go how you want it to go because you got the votes. Tab is the contact for part-time legislator in this county. I have ballots at my shop, and I know that throughout the county, Kelly's got ballots. So Stephanie's got ballots. So we've got lots of places you can start signing for part-time legislator. We're one of only 4 states that have a full-time legislator. If you ask them, the first words out of their mouth are, well, we've got a lot of work to do. Our response should be that's just the problem right there. You're doing too much work. If the other 40-some states can figure out how to make this happen without having people there 12 months a year, we should be able to do it. Michigan's not so big, not so overpopulated that we need people there that long making rules and regulations. Because, oh my gosh, we're one of the most regulated states in the nation. If you guys got your calendars out, you want to write this down. The Second Amendment is important to you. They're going to have a march in Lansing, April 29th at 9:45 in the morning. We'll put an event up on Facebook if you want to sign up for carpool. All right, you can get on there if you want to carpool down.
I've never done it, heard someone describe it, it's been there before. There was no, the people weren't nervous, the staffers weren't nervous, they took their guns into the Capitol, into the gallery. Yeah, we went to the staffers across the street. Everybody, the way he interpreted it was, they never felt safe in downtown Lansing. These are law-abiding citizens that know their rights, they want to keep their rights, they're law-abiding, they're not criminal. And we got to get that concept in our mind. I want to go.
And then we have a Michigan conservative PAC. It's called MI PAC or Michigan PAC. And they're going to have the Freedom Summit at the Ramada Conference Center in Lansing. If you want to get your calendars out, write this down. If you come out to our website or our Facebook page, a lot of this stuff's on there. It's 5/16, 5/18. I would imagine that's a weekend.
It's Friday,
Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday's a big Sunday.
So if you want to go and see some inspirational speakers, anytime you get together with a bunch of like-minded folks, it's kind of a kick in the tail.
Sunday event for training for people who want to run for office on public campaigns, local offices, guidance.
And I'm going to introduce Miranda. She's in charge of our summer picnic coming up, and she's going to give you information about that. She's going to give what she's got.
It's going to be in Mount Pleasant on June 28th, and it's going to be kind of a picnic barbecue thing, a few games, and just network with other Tea Party groups from the 4th District. So we're all going to get together and have some fun, and I'll have more information coming up.
Mud bog?
No mud bog.
But you know what? That would be a good idea. That would be a great idea sometime in the summer. I want to tell you guys what this district is doing that's kind of neat. And Randy started this, and I want to tip my hat to her because she took the bull by the horns and she's wrestling this one down. And she's brought the conservative groups in the whole 4th District, so ones that want to meet and try to make change, all of us together. We're getting people from Gratiot, we're getting some folks from Mount Pleasant. We have some folks that come from Midland, our group, obviously, Clinton. So we're not just Gladwin now, we're also the 4th district, you know. We do need some representation in Saginaw, we get that. We need probably some more in Midland, which would be great. You know, we're trying to get Tammy to get some folks excited about becoming precinct delegates. Since I see you guys here, if you give me your contact information, I have a guy that wants to be a precinct delegate, and Tammy's never contacted. He wants to be a precinct delegate in your county. So, yeah, and if nobody contacts him, that's gonna fall, that's gonna be scraps that fall off the table. We don't need that. So, this gal is doing a great job getting us all together. So we can help make change in this whole district, okay? Is it making Judy Raponis a little nervous? You can bet it is, okay? There's some power players in this county, and you guys think, I mean, for me, it boggles my mind that people care so much about this perceived power that they have, but they do. They kick and they scream and they fight back. You're in the midst of it. You're in the mouth of the tiger down there. So we're going to make some differences because people like this are involved. And because we only meet once every 3 or 4 months, but it's powerful. And what they do in that little bit of time when they get together and these organizations, this picnic coming up, that's going to be great. It's going to help push Pete across the finish line. That's stuff we need to do. I agree.
Okay. One thing I want to add, and I hope Tim's still interested in doing this for us. We talked about it a little bit this week. You know, if we believe in limited government and we start paring that back, if the people really want to start examining what our government should do for us, what's proper, then we're going to have to start, if we believe in liberty, liberty means you're more self-reliant. That's the way I understand it. You know, if you want to be free, you have to prepare for yourself. Now, who's heard of like the television shows like The Preppers? You know, I don't know the titles, but it's called Prepper shows. You know, I haven't watched too many of them, but you know, there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it gets hyped up and sensationalized. But think about this: we talk about the electricity grids week, or the flooding we've had lately. And what if your power went out for a week? You know, we scramble the loads of Home Depot, we buy generators and parts, and everybody sells out, and we beg borrow steel and try to get through it. But the idea is, what if we were down for 2 weeks or 3 weeks? You know, what about just common basic, common sense preparedness to protect your family, your friends, and your neighbors? What about water? How do you sanitize? Do you have the means? What about cooking? What about heat? What about, you know, do you have any food? I work in more of an urban environment, and I work in a grocery store, and most places every day. I swear to you, for a field trip, they go grocery shopping every day. The thing of it is, though, in the wintertime, when the storm coming, and they know it, and they see the storm coming on the smartphone, they panic. And they start filling cars. It makes no sense to them. You know? So a little bit of common sense, a little bit of preparedness, you won't worry about it.